me get this straight. Put the lime in the coconut.
So, Dr. Tammy, why call it the Naked Doctor?
Well, it's the naked truth about health, wellness, and lifestyle, but it's also fun not to wear clothes in the studio.
Hi, welcome back to The Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we are so excited. We have a nice kind of little cool spring day.
Yes.
We have a fabulous guest, and we are actually in his office.
I know. It's beautiful.
It is. It's just absolutely amazing. The offices of Mr. Frank Bailey and Satch Oliver. And we kind of put it out there this week to lawyer questions.
Yes.
And I think people have more lawyer questions than they have medical questions.
It's just one of those areas that's fuzzy for most people. Medicine, law,
intimidating,
insurance. It's all
scary.
like, what?
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mr. Bailey has been near and dear to my heart for quite some time. We both came from Mountain Home, moved over into this area. And he is the founder and managing partner of the Bailey Oliver Law Firm here in Rogers. I guess we're in now.
Yeah, we are in
almost
Rogers.
a lull here. And for 41 years, he's represented clients who have been injured in the community and throughout Arkansas. And he is just such a pillar of his work, integrity, heart-centered. It's really important. He was named Trial Lawyer of the Year in 2009 by the Arkansas Trial Lawyers Association. So he's not just like some little lawyer from Arkansas.
Some guy.
He's like got a lot of credentials and just amazing. But the thing is, it's one thing to be smart and it's one thing to be really good at what you do. It's really another thing to just be kind and gentle and loving and heart-centered.
Right. That's living with excellence in every area.
It is. He loves to tell stories of the families he's helped. I'm so excited because he just told me a couple weeks ago that he was going to start working on a book, and he kind of sent me a little copy, so we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Awesome.
So he's going to share some of those stories, and I know that people will just love that, and that will be just a beautiful legacy. And, his real legacy is just operating his legal practice with a love and heart-centered approach.
Yes.
So excited to have you, Mr. Bailey. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. He's like, who are these crazy women? I don't know what I've gotten myself into.
Who've just invaded our office.
Yes.
With all this equipment.
We just moved in with mics.
We did. And we have like the best room in the house. We have this great view.
Yes. This is much better than the closet with the foam on the walls that we've used a few times.
Yes. We have used a few closets.
No, this is nice. We're moving up. This is classy.
It's classy. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's so easy to find. It's right off kind of the Pleasant Grove exit. I just kind of took a right, and it's kind of that little complex back behind there. You can see I-49 right from here. The office is beautiful. We've got kind of like this little Stonehenge arrangement out front, which is
nice.
I love it. Where'd you get the rocks?
We've got those at local rock place, and they're buried about 10 feet in the ground. So
Wow.
Oh, wow. So they're not going to fall on anybody.
it was quite an operation to put those in.
I can
I
imagine.
bet. Yeah.
Well, this area and how beautiful everything is and how many art installations there are, I'm getting where I'm jaded. I expect to see that kind of beauty all the time.
I know.
Like, where's your cool rock sculpture? Where's your cool metal thing? Why don't you have one of those?
Yeah, we'd have a whole lot of that and stuff in Mountain Home, so we get a little spoiled over here, which is cool. So, Mr. Bailey, tell us a little bit about what made you want to be a lawyer. I'm sure that was a minute ago, but what motivates you? What kind of was your thought process behind?
Well, when I started college, I was really interested in medicine, and I saw some law students, and they had a lot thicker books than the chemistry and the biology book. So I thought, well, this would be fun to do, and that's really how I got started. And then I had roommates that were in law school when I was a freshman, and I really enjoyed talking to them, and they were studying all the time, and it was just a lot of energy that they were getting from their classes. And so that's really how I got started.
So you were drawn to that challenge.
Yeah,
you saw the thicker books and went, yeah, that's what I want. See, I love that. That's the opposite of the way a lot of people would think.
I want the thin books.
Yeah, I want
a
the
doctor.
easy. How do I get out of here quick? And you were like, oh, give it to me. I want to level up. Give me a little more. That's admirable. I like that.
So it was, in those days, you could go to undergraduate school and law school at the same time. And I would do that. I did that actually for 4 years, and this was during the Vietnam War, and I got my degree, undergraduate degree, but you could only have 1 year of postgraduate, and then you were eligible for the draft. So I got drafted, and you could join for 3 years, which I did, and fortunately I went to what I call spy school because I was supposed to be a counterintelligence agent.
What?
Exciting.
That's just dun dun dun.
I love it.
Okay, keep going.
Okay.
I learned a lot of good things, how you can penetrate a lock without being caught, and that's always comes in handy.
Yeah. How many times have I said, dang it, I wish I... Anyway, go. Don't let me perjure myself.
I know, you got to be careful, right? Next thing you know, someone's going to get broken into.
Cryssie, can I remind you that there's a lawyer in the room? Oh, yeah. Thanks. Thanks for having my back.
So after spy school, the Army sent me to Vietnamese language school for a year. And you kind of get the feeling that they're sending you to Vietnamese language school because you're going to be going to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I went to Vietnam for 6 months, and fortunately I didn't kill anybody, I didn't get shot, came back, and then I finished the last year of law school. And the truth is, I had a really bad attitude when I came back because my hair was short, I didn't know any of the songs, and all these young guys were running around. So as soon as I graduated from law school, I caught Icelandic airline with a backpack, and I backpacked in Europe for 2 years.
You said, I'm not hippie enough. I'm not.
I know.
enough.
I need to get a little more
got
world
culture.
experience.
I love
This is
that.
such a fantastic. Okay, so at this point, how old are you?
I'm about 24.
Dear Lord. And you've already had more experience than some people have in their entire lives. And you're just like, I just want to experience more before I...
You know, there's a movie where the guy was, just running across the country. What was the movie? And then
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, all of a sudden, a light bulb turned on, and that's the way it was with me. All of a sudden, one day I said, well, I'm ready to go back to Arkansas, take the bar exam, and start practicing law.
Wow. That's such a cool story. And then that whole entire chapter starts. So even before you had made that decision, you had seen a lot of things and done a lot of things. And wow, that's really impressive. What a cool story.
Fortunately, when I was younger, in high school and elementary school, my best friend was Frank Wesson, and his great-great-grandfather was Smith & Wesson.
Oh.
So they had a home on Cape Cod, and I used to go up to their home during the summertime. And one time I met Frank's sister-in-law, who was the daughter of Marion Pike, a famous portrait painter. So she had told me when I went to Europe, be sure and look up her mother. And I did, and her mother had a gorgeous apartment in Paris. And I started working for her, stretching canvas and running errands. And what I would do is I would work for her for about a couple of weeks, and then I would go off backpacking on a radio for a month or so, and then I'd come back and work another couple of weeks. She was really into Coco Chanel. They were best friends.
What? This just keeps getting better. I feel like I'm watching one of those mini-series.
I know, right?
And then I went to Paris and stretched canvas for a beautiful woman who knew Coco Chanel. You're not making this up, are you? You're under oath right now.
Can't
You
make
know
this
that.
up.
This is too good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good.
So Marion had a one-person art show in Palm Beach, and I went to Palm Beach with her. And Coco Chanel's panels were there. These were huge panels, about 6 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. And part of my job was to put the panels together, and then Marion would come in and kind of seal the cracks. So in Palm Beach, Estee Lauder came to the show, and she wanted to have Marion paint her portrait. So that was a really good commission. And while Marion was painting the portrait, I would be sitting in the kitchen with Estee Lauder's husband, Joe, and we'd just be talking about boxing or the different things. And People magazine came, and they did a whole shoot. And that year in People magazine was a picture of Estee Lauder and Marion Pike, and I'm about an inch away from the picture. I didn't make it into the
cropped
magazine.
out, but I got cropped out of a really iconic photo.
Yeah.
So let me just... Oh my gosh, that is such a fantastic story. I would be afraid if I had an experience like that. I would be telling everyone I ever made eye contact with, like in the checkout line, I'd go, by the way. Ah, that's fantastic. What fantastic life experience you had all before your career ever started.
And then the light bulb turned on, and I came back to Arkansas and took the bar exam and started practicing law in Mountain Home. And I'm really proud of my first month. I made $635 gross.
Man.
Ooh, big time.
Yeah.
So then,
Now, why Mountain Home? You have family there, is that right?
yeah, my parents lived about 30 miles outside of Mountain Home in Marion County, and we actually had a farm with Herefords. We had about 40 Herefords and a couple of landrace pigs and some chickens. So my parents thought it would be a really good education for me while I was in high school to work on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And we split rails and split wood and just did all the things that a farm boy will do. And then sometimes in the afternoon, because we were close to Bull Shoals Lake, I'd go fishing, and we had a trot line, and you could catch brim and bait the trot line and then run the trot line in the morning, and you'd usually have a turtle or catfish or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a really good way to be raised on a farm like that.
Be close to nature and
Oh, and
appreciate.
the-
And
the
what
lakes
but
there
what
are
a
amazing.
huge flip to me from hanging out in Paris to coming back to Mountain Home. So what, I know you said a little light switched on, but what do you think that was? Was it a little bit of homesickness? Was it Paris really isn't going to be the scene where I want to make my mark? What do you think tripped that for you?
Well, I think I figured out I couldn't be a hitchhiker all my life.
Yeah,
And I needed
yeah.
to get my feet on the ground and do something productive. That's what turned it on.
That's awesome.
I
What a
wanna
cool-
know if
because
you
some
can-
people never get past that point.
Yeah,
some people never get
they're
past the
looking for
hitchhiker
themselves
point.
the
Yeah,
whole
forever.
life.
And it seems like you were able to experience enough to go, yeah, this was fun. I think I'm going to go be a real person. How cool. How cool.
Yeah. Do you remember any Vietnamese? Do you speak any?
No, we had a really bad attitude because we did not want to go to Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
And there were about 30 of us that had in that school. So some of the times they would have what we call lifers, people that were in the service for 20 or 30 years, and we would be going out to recess with them, and we would do things like we would try to tell time in military time, but we'd get it wrong, and that would really upset the sergeants, and they didn't like that at all. And so we kind of made a pact among the guys that we wouldn't speak any more Vietnamese after we got out of the Army.
Yeah.
But I can say a little bit. Chào ông là nói không?
Dear Lord. Yes. Beautiful.
I could take you with me to get my nails done.
Yes. Yes.
You could interpret, because some of the time I'm
Yes.
sitting there going, what are
I
they
don't
talking
know.
about?
Are you talking about me? Because I don't know what you are. But yes, I could see how that wouldn't be what I would call an optimal learning environment. Not really.
Yeah, stressful.
Yeah,
Well,
stressful, and why am I learning this? And I'm not really agreeing with it, so it's just going to kind of bounce out. That's the way it would be for me.
Yeah, stress makes it a little hard to learn
Yeah.
under. So speaking of stress, they're saying it's time for a commercial
Okay,
break.
but
That
this
always
story
stresses
just
me out.
continues, and
Yes,
it's
it
it's
does.
continuing to be awesome. So
Yes.
come right back.
Oh, and we have so many questions we're gonna answer for some of our listeners, and we'll be
Yes.
back in just a minute with the Naked Doctor and Mr. Frank Bailey. Welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we are in the beautiful offices of Mr. Frank Bailey
Yes.
at Oliver here in Rogers, Arkansas. It's
Yes.
absolutely amazing. We're so grateful for you having us here today, Mr. Bailey.
And hearing some fascinating stories and
Yes.
ready for more.
Yes.
So
So,
And there we go.
here's something I'm really proud of. We had to have tests in the Vietnamese language school, and they were true and false. So one day I decided that I was going to miss every question, which was fairly difficult. So
it must have been difficult for you
conscious effort
to answer things wrong. That was hard.
I'd have missed them all just
I know.
because.
I was trying and somehow did better. I don't know.
Avoid C if it's a multiple
Yes.
choice.
I was really proud of that I was able to miss every true and false question.
Wow. Goodness sakes.
Conscious effort.
And then when we got to Vietnam, it was really scary because when your plane landed, you didn't really know what was going to happen. And
Yeah.
as I recall, there were some rockets that were exploding close to the airport, and we would get on a helicopter just because we were bored, and because the helicopter, they'd fly about 10,000 feet, and it was a lot cooler than it was on the ground. And one time I was on a helicopter, and the pilot handed me a machine gun, and I'd never really fired a machine gun. So there I was, my feet hanging out the side of the helicopter with a M60. And fortunately, I didn't ever pull the trigger, but that was part of what I did. One time, a rocket or something hit the oil line, and so the helicopter went down in the middle of a rice field.
Oh my Lord.
And then another helicopter came and picked us up. So we were really, really lucky to get out of there without any problems.
You had all sorts of near misses and
Yeah.
This was the
Your guardian
action.
angel
This was
for-
the action movie part of your life. So there was the hanging out in Paris, the fashion icons part. Then there was the action movie part.
Yeah, where are we going to get this ghostwriter? You're going to write your own story.
So
and then
no,
we're
I'm
gonna
ready
get to
for the
make a
book
movie.
now.
I
I'm
know.
completely ready for this.
I know. I'm excited. So the first book that you're working on is just to kind of help people. Kind of the preview that I've seen is to help people with like legal issues and talk about who you are. But then the second book, you're going to help potentially other lawyers build a practice, a heart-centered practice the way you have.
Yeah, the way the books got started is I'm friends with a lawyer in New York State, and he teaches that the best business card that you can have is a book, because if you hand someone a business card, they'll lose it or throw it away. But if you give them a book, they're going to keep it. And so that's what gave me the idea to write a book. And initially, I started writing a book that was going to be for both lawyers and clients. And then I talked to you, Tammy, and you said, well, why don't you just write 2 books? I thought, well, okay, I can
Well,
do
there
that.
you
I can
go.
do that. And
This is the man who likes the challenge.
Yes, he wants to. Absolutely. I can't see you looking.
What?
Yeah, no, you'd be like, absolutely. I'm going to write 2. You know what? I'm going to write a book. It's a trilogy
I
now.
understand
Guess
that
what?
now. I know what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
so the book is a work in progress. I'm on page 19 of the lawyer book, and I have the outline of the client's book.
That's more than most people ever really. With the
yeah.
point where they say, I'm going to write a book, and then a pen never
That's
hits
it.
the paper. So that's, you take those first steps. That's all it takes.
Yeah, people don't realize the process, how easy it can be. So I just think that's so beautiful to get that out there
Yeah.
and tell people. And, not just the best calling card, but it really puts you ahead, establishes your expertise in the field, because you do have so much expertise and you do have so much to bring to the table. So why not let people know that you do? You're
Right.
not just some newbie starting out that's never, really won a case or touched any cases. I'm going to totally botch that because I don't know the legalese speak, but
No, but
really
let me
do have
also
expertise.
say a memoir needs to be in there.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
That's maybe
Yeah.
that's the third part
I'm
of the.
excited
Now
about
I'm
that one.
challenging you to 3 books. So there. I see your 2 books and I raise you one.
So one of the stories that I'm putting in the book that I'm writing is a long time ago when the interest rates were really high. President Carter was the president, and savings and loans were all across Arkansas. So an elderly couple had $100,000 that they had saved, and they took it to the savings and loan. They were going to deposit it into the institution. So the president of that savings and loan talked to them and said, look, just give me the money and I can get you a higher rate of return than the savings and loan. So they gave him all of their life savings. And for 6 months or so, he would give them a check every month, and then the checks stopped coming. He said, I lost your money. I'm sorry. So they came to me, and I knew that we couldn't recover from the president because he's probably spent all the money. But the legislature had just passed the RICO law, the RICO, which was Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations. And the president and the people that worked in the savings and loan all drove black Cadillacs. And I thought, okay, that's probably enough to get a mobster in here. So we used the
Oh, my Lord.
we used the RICO law and I filed it in federal court. So Judge Franklin Waters immediately wrote me back a letter, says, you have 10 days to show me why this case should not be dismissed. You can't sue a savings and loan under RICO. So we worked pretty much day and night doing the research and filed a brief with the court. The court agreed with us, and we got more than enough money to pay them all of their money back plus attorney's fees. So that was one of the first times that I really felt like that it was rewarding to help people that had been harmed.
Yes, you were setting a wrong right, and that's got to feel really good. Plus, there had to be a little satisfaction in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, and when somebody's trying to take advantage of somebody and their whole life savings.
yes. That's absolutely despicable.
It is despicable, and more so, just not even those people, but to maybe you stop them from doing that to somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of one of the
Because
things
that's
I think
what
about.
happens. That just continues.
Yeah, and they think it's easy. They just keep doing it.
Yeah.
They ultimately went to jail, and they shut the savings and loan down.
Yeah.
But I was really, really glad to get the money back for the elderly
Yes,
couple.
and they had to really feel good about that.
Then, shortly after that, there was a hospital in Bull Shoals, and the hospital
Worked there.
She's like, I know that place.
the hospital had a leak in the operating room.
Oh, I remember that.
And they had brought a doctor in from Louisiana, been kicked out of several states to be their surgeon. We called him Dr. Death.
Oh, great.
And
This
if you
is
went under the
great.
knife with him, you had a very slim chance of making a recovery. So we sued the hospital and the doctor and won a large verdict, the largest verdict in Baxter County at that time. And we got a lot of publicity from that. And so that's how I got started in medical negligence cases from that publicity.
That's so funny. I want to say it was probably 88 or 89. I was just out of x-ray school, and I had moved back home. My dad was really sick, and I worked in that hospital for about 6 months, and I could totally, I'm right with you. I mean, it was scary. There were roaches. There was a leak in the operating room because I had to go in there and take x-rays in there.
Oh, my
Would that
gosh.
have been about the time?
Yeah, that was about the time.
Yeah, oh.
This sounds like a horror movie.
I'm like, I mean, he was right on. That place needed to be shut down. It was one of the scariest
Goodness sakes.
things ever. And I was just new, and I didn't know, I'm just
Yeah.
working, and I was probably 19 at the time,
Yeah.
and it's just like, is this supposed to be this way?
Is this supposed to look like this? Is this Mexico?
It's gonna, yeah. There was carpet there and everything.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's like you don't want carpet in the hallways of a hospital. That's gonna.
Yeah, and just the thought that by the way, your doctor doesn't have a great track record. Good luck.
He's been kicked out of
Don't
multiple
slip in
states.
that puddle on your way to surgery.
Well, and the clientele, because I moved back home to Bull Shoals years later after that, which when the hospital was turned into a nursing home and it was closed down, but moved back home to pay off my student loans and everything. And those people, bless their heart, they're so sweet and loving. But there's most of them are pretty simple folks, and they would have let me done brain surgery on them if I told them I could.
Yeah.
And
Well, they love you, Dr. Tammy.
Yeah.
They'd been like, sure, why not?
So I can totally see that they're putting their trust because they think here's a local hospital and the doctor's a nice guy, and it's not always about being a nice person. It's about expertise and how many times have you done this case, and I'm sure those are kind of some of the things that you evaluate when you're evaluating doctors for their
We try to
ability.
We're really, really careful on the cases that we accept, and we probably turn down 99% of the cases that come to us for medical negligence because the doctor doesn't guarantee that they're going to get a perfect result, and sometimes our standard now is we have to say they did what, and if we can say that, then it's probably a good case.
His wristwatch was in your liver. What? That would be one.
Well, and I wish that I could say that in the medical profession that doctors, I think for the most part, most people do go into medicine with a heart-centered approach, wanting to help people and care for people. But unfortunately, over the years, being in the medical field, not as a doctor completely, but I've been in the medical field almost 20 years now, and I've seen so much, I just want to say, lack of human decency and respect. I mean, it's just so prevalent. And so that's why I tell people, advocate for having someone with you when you go to the hospital or go to the doctor's office, have an advocate with you there, to be another set of ears and eyes. And I mean, I wish that it were a different system, but it's just really not. I've seen so much, just rushing through things, and just, you have to be conscientious. You have to be a healthcare consumer, really, and say, is this in my best interest? Be a little more proactive, because boy, sitting in the office with you, Mr. Bailey, when they're, had a bad outcome or something is, probably not the best place to be in.
And I think the best thing that someone can do is have a friend or a family member sit in the room with them and actually kind of keep their own log of what's going on. And to me, that's very, very helpful to make sure that there are not any mistakes made. But we've evolved out of medical negligence cases now, and we have found that there is a huge need for people to have safety of these big trucks that are on the road. Just a couple of years ago, we had a case where a semi-tractor trailer was coming up on a wreck, and it wanted to stop. It couldn't stop, and so instead of going in the ditch, it crossed the double yellow line and took out a car, killed the driver, and terribly brain injured the wife. We had the truck inspected, and we found that the tractor has 6 brakes on it. 4 of the 6 brakes were defective, and that's why the trucking company couldn't stop, or the truck couldn't stop. And then we did more investigation, and we found that the trucking company had been sold a couple of years ago, and they were cutting back on money. And so instead of fixing the brakes, they thought, well, we can make it on 2 brakes, and it just ruined the family. So we're now looking at a lot of these trucking cases, and we just find that the larger trucking companies do good work. Some of these smaller trucking companies, where it's an owner-operator, the operator is supposed to take care of the maintenance, and they just don't have the money to do it, so they cut corners, and a lot of people are being killed every year.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, how would so as a consumer, I look at that and I think about, so why are there so many trucks on the road to start with? And that's because we're transporting products back and forth. And so I'm thinking to myself, what can I do as an individual, A, to protect myself, and B, to make decisions that lead towards a company like that being more conscientious?
The trucking companies have a huge lobby, and they try to keep the hours as long as they can for a driver. The hours now are 11 hours you can drive. And if you've ever driven straight for 11 hours, you're pretty tired. Mm-hmm. And that's causing a lot of these wrecks. And then maintenance is really expensive on these trucks. So they just cut corners. And when we look at a trucking company, there are government regulations that you can see that they have violated. And on the internet, it's called SafeStat. You can look up any trucking company if you have their DOT number and see how many times they have been pulled over, inspected, and then the percent of times that they have been taken off out of service because of the lights weren't working, the brakes weren't working, all the different kind of things, or the driver was driving over hours.
Right.
So it's a difficult situation, and right now trucking companies seem to be hiring anybody that will work for them because it's a very, very tough job. So we're seeing a lot of drivers that are not qualified now. You have to be trained, and you have to be very conscientious to drive one of those big rigs carefully. And about 4,000 people a year are killed in these big truck wrecks.
Yeah. Now, the reason I asked that is because we live in an area, let's be honest about it, with Walmart and with J.B. Hunt, where there are people listening that could actually have an impact on this. There are people listening. Now, I know that when I was working in packaging for Walmart, there was a point where we were having inspections done on the print facilities overseas to make sure that they were environmentally conscious, to make sure that they were being kind to their people. And I think there's probably something in there where we
vote with our dollars.
We vote with our dollars to where we could just make it a policy that they have to be more conscientious. Anyone that's out there using a a transportation company that does not follow these guidelines should not be utilized, because in the domino effect down the road, you wind up with injuries, and then you wind up being involved as an attorney.
And let's think about the variables that we can more even directly affect. And, I'm just going to kind of, call us out as the other people on the road. How many times are we texting or looking at our phones and not
driving
paying
too fast?
And if we were more conscientious, that's just kind of a play for put your phones down when you're, don't
just
be on
all
Facebook.
around.
Because if you're more conscientious, at least you have a little more potentially lead time. Just knowing, you've kind of made this awareness that these company issues exist, these trucking companies.
There's an increased
So
danger.
especially if you're on the interstate and you're around a bunch of big trucks, have as much awareness and conscientiousness as you can. That's not the time to be distracted driver. Okay, they're saying time for a little break, so we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, and we're definitely going to get to those questions.
Yes,
before the end of the
questions.
show. Love it. All right. Be right back with the Naked Doctor and Mr. Frank Bailey. Welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we are in the law offices of Mr. Frank Bailey today.
Yes.
And he's our wonderful guest. And we've been talking about all the exciting experience he has. And I just want to hear just a little bit more about what's happened, how you met your wife, your two furry children, and just kind of who you are and who you've become as you've kind of developed into this life even here.
When I was in Mountain Home, they didn't have a public defender, and so the judge would appoint the different lawyers to represent criminals. And unfortunately, one time I got appointed to represent a murder case, and it was on TV, and my wife was in Harrison, and she was getting a divorce, and so she thought, this guy Bailey, he's a pretty good lawyer. I'd like to have him represent me in my divorce. So the minute she came into the office, I said, I really like her. She's a wonderful lady. We got her divorce, and then I waited 30 days to be ethical before I asked her out. And after 30 days, I called her up and said, would you like to go out to dinner? And she said, yes. Well, her secretary heard this, and she said, oh my God, Pat can't cook. So
I wasn't sure where that was going. I was like, you know what?
She can't cook.
She can't cook.
So Pat said, well, come on over to my house. And so the secretary ran out and bought the food, and somebody else cooked it. And when I went into Pat's house, there was this beautiful meal on the stove in the pots and pans, and it smelled really good. So for a couple of months, I thought that she had prepared the meal, and it wasn't. It wasn't until about 2 months later I found out the real story about what had happened.
So you were trying to be ethical going into it, and immediately she was like, not even. So I'm already sensing a dynamic here.
But she really dug this guy.
No, really. I mean, she was willing to put up that front. And she had people clearly that cared about her and wanted to support her in this effort by hiding the evidence.
And it clearly wasn't a deal breaker.
No,
I can't cook
not.
at all,
No.
even yet. Almost 50 now.
Hilarious.
So we've been married for 22 years now, and we don't have any children, but we have two dogs. One is a Dorgie, half Dachshund and half Dorkie.
Oh, nice. That's got to be cute.
Her name is Molly, and she's about 9 years old. And we just recently have a Westie, who we saw here earlier today. And in the evenings, we'll be sitting in our house, and the Westie will be chasing Molly around the house, and then pretty soon it'll go the other way. Molly will be chasing Westie. And they just keep us laughing all the time.
That's such an uplifting thing. I love pets.
And they need
I love
companions, too. I think that's
Yeah.
so great they have each other.
Yes.
That's great.
And we have 2 cats, so we have 4 furry friends at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So, and the move over here, what was the biggest thought to move into Northwest Arkansas?
Well, Satch Oliver had, when he graduated from law school, he had opened an office in Bentonville, and I had maintained our office in Mountain Home. And Mountain Home was really dying on the vine, and Bentonville was just really, really going. So we decided to sell both of those offices and buy the building that we're in today here in in Rogers, and that was about 3 years ago. And my wife took early retirement, and so she has moved over here, and her mother is 89, living in an assisted living. So being retired, that gives Pat an opportunity to spend a lot of quality time with her mother.
That's good.
And they go shopping almost every week at TJ Maxx. And
Love TJ Maxx.
so her mother, will buy a little jewelry or a scarf, and they just
Yes.
have a great time together.
That's so good. I love that.
And she'll always value that time that she's been
Yes,
able to spend with
absolutely.
her. My mom's in assisted living over here too, and it's so great to have her close and be able to spend that time. So how did you, and I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to ask in, do you like specialize here in the law practice? Because I know you've kind of broke it down into, on the website it says general and catastrophic and your different divisions. So how do you kind of focus? Because I know in medicine, we focus into family medicine, or we focus into surgery, or we have all these specialties. How do you just kind of go along, or kind of pick what you love to do, or what you're more passionate about?
The firm has 5 lawyers now, and we have divided it up into 3 divisions. There is one division that Mr. Oliver heads. It's the catastrophic injury division, and they're working on cases like at Arkansas Nuclear 1 on Easter Sunday 2 years ago. The regulations required them to do a load test before they did a big lift. So they were lifting a 1 million pound generator without a load test, and the scaffolding collapsed, fell through the floor, and it killed one person and injured about 7 others.
Wow.
So that's what we call a catastrophic case. My division that I had is working on basically car wrecks where people will not be totally catastrophically injured, but they'll have a whiplash or broken arm or broken leg. And I have multiple cases like that. And then we have just started with Tony Noblin to have a general practice where he is doing real estate and transaction law. So, and we're looking to bring in another lawyer that's going to be doing divorces. Right now that we only do personal injury and transactional law, but we want to get back into the divorces that I did when I met my wife.
Do you have any criminal aspect to, like, if people have any criminal cases or defendant or anything like that?
We don't do criminal cases at the current time. At the current time, we've thought about that, but we decided not to do that.
That's a whole lot of negative energy.
Yeah, I don't know how I would.
If I were going into law, or I think about being in law, I think all the other stuff has so. I don't know. Criminal just kind of brings in.
It makes me think of Law and
element.
Order.
Yeah,
That's really
that's
the only
scary.
reference I have.
They're saying it's time for a little break here, so we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back and we're going to answer those questions that we got on our Naked Doctor Radio Show Facebook page, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we have Mr. Frank Bailey here.
Yes.
And in his studio, we're in his office.
I know.
Today, which is amazing.
So I think we should decorate our studio like this.
Yes.
This is beautiful.
Yes, I love it.
You guys in radio are just going to have to imagine it.
Yeah, just imagine it. Very artsy.
Yes.
So on our little break there just a minute ago between segments, I thought was really great because Cryssie, you're selling insurance.
Yes,
now,
I work
and-
at the Shelley Parson Farmers Insurance Agency in Bentonville. And I had the question when we were talking about auto insurance. I advise people every day on purchasing auto insurance policies. And the state limit for Arkansas is what we call 25, 50, 25. So it's a $25,000 bodily injury liability per person, $50,000 per accident, $25,000 for property damage is the state limit. So you have a lot of people that come in and they're insuring their new car and they say, I don't want anything higher than the state limit. And so I advise them, you have to understand that most of the time in a liability case, the settlement's going to be much higher than this 25, 50, 25 worth of coverage. And so you, as the individual, if you are found liable, you're going to have to reach into your own personal assets in order to be able to pay that off. So I was asking, what do you see is the typical settlement for auto accidents in this area?
We see a lot of people that don't have enough insurance. The $25,000 that can be taken with an air ambulance, it'll be $27,000 to be transported. So the thing that we push is for people to get underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage, because often the person that is at fault for the wreck won't have any insurance, or they'll only have 25. And so to protect yourself, you need to go ahead and get more uninsured and underinsured. I think that the minimum that I would feel comfortable would be $250, $500.
Yeah.
That way, if you hurt somebody, you know there's going to be enough money to pay for their damages. And then if somebody hurts you, if you have uninsured and underinsured, then you're going to have enough money to pay for your injuries, unless it's catastrophic. If it's catastrophic, you're talking maybe $5 or $10 million.
Wow.
Most people don't have that. Only corporations have that much coverage.
So I like knowing that I'm advising people properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always felt that way, but it's nice to hear that from someone who's an expert in the industry.
Well, and do a lot of people settle for just what the insurance, for the deepest pocket, which is the insurance company? Will they just settle for that minimum?
If there's only $25,000, that's all you're going to get. It's not feasible to go after the individual, because if you go after the individual's assets, then you can't get the 25. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
But if the individual has some assets, that's one thing to think about.
That's what we were saying. Now, if it's somebody that a lawyer does a
little.
little digging and they realize that they do have assets, that their pockets are much deeper, they just weren't covered adequately.
Very seldom does that happen. I've only had that happen to me one time in 41 years,
Okay,
where I was able to get more than the limits of insurance.
got it.
But then that protects you as the person who has the accident
Yes.
if you have more insurance.
Yes.
So that's the whole point of having more insurance, is just
Right.
to protect yourself, because you're not going to get anything more from the other people. And if your bills go over, then you're just kind of out of luck.
And higher limits are very reasonable.
Yes.
Uninsured and underinsured is very reasonable for the protection that you get.
Right. Right.
All right, so let's go into our one of our Facebook questions. This is from Nicole, and she said that she had surgery in 2014, and the doctor, quote, messed up.
Messed up.
Everyone's told her that basically she needs to get, legal involved, but she says and I think a lot of people feel this way, that I've just never been I've never been a litigating kind of person. So she said that she got some E. coli infection, and she was in the hospital for 9 days. She was in 3 different hospitals. She feels like one hospital finally really saved her life. She was given some pain meds, or needed pain meds, and they said they didn't want her to get addicted, so she felt like she had some suffering that was involved there. And she said, she kind of was treated like and I've seen this a lot in the medical field, let me tell you, it's kind of this whole thing about kind of treat people like they're drug addicts till proven otherwise, which is really sad. So I can totally see this happening. And she said that her family was upset, and she's lost her faith in doctors, which is very disheartening. He removed some extra things, apparently, that he wasn't supposed to remove or didn't have permission to remove.
Just go in there and pull some things out at random.
Yeah, right. So where should she start?
In looking at one of these cases to see if it's going to be a case that we would accept, one of the first things that we look at is, can we prove causation? And with a infection type case, causation is almost impossible to prove where the infection came from. So that is a very difficult hurdle that she would have to get over. The other thing is, it costs between $50,000 and $100,000 to actually prosecute a medical negligence case, because you have to have expert opinions that will talk about the standard of care. And those doctors usually charge about $1,000 an hour. So if your damages are only going to be $50,000 or $100,000, you're not going to be able to get the client any money. It's going to be eaten up with expenses. So even though she's had a very unfortunate outcome, that's not a case that we would accept, or I don't think any lawyer that does medical negligence cases would accept. And that's why we turn down 99% of the medical cases that come to us, because it's either the injuries are not catastrophic enough to justify the expenditure, or we can't prove causation. The people would have had problems, and we can't prove where the problem came from. I
just-
hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think so many people think, I'm just going to sue the doctor. And unfortunately, I think that there need to be better standards among doctors because I've seen so much. But it's just not that easy, and a lot of times, unless someone actually even dies, is my understanding, that there's a lot that can happen and a lot of neglect that can happen, unfortunately. But it kind of just comes down to the money that it takes to prosecute and kind of the end result, what that's going to be worth. So I love that answer. And I know that's probably not the answer that she wants to hear. I would say more from a more heart-centered, loving place, from losing faith in the doctors. I would say to this person who wrote this question that, things happen for us and not to us. And when you're in a yucky space, that's not something you want to hear. But I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And so not losing faith, is a hard thing to do. But, try to glean some positive thing from that experience. And I know that's a really hard thing to do when you're really hurt and when you feel like you've been wronged and things have not been good. But, it's a tough space to be in sometimes. But I think that's good information to know and what people are looking at. And that's probably another good reason to have good insurance.
Yeah.
Things are covered so that at least you're not out of pocket, right? When you can't sue or, you don't have
It all ties back into insurance, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does. So we've got one more little question here from Larry. He said, if you overpay child support, can you get a judgment to be refunded back?
I researched that, and there's case law that says overpaying child support is deemed a gift, and so you can't sue to get it
wow.
back.
Oh,
I
so
have
be
never
careful.
heard that before. So don't watch that extra zero on the end of that
That's
check.
right. Be careful. Document. That's always kind of a sticky area. So if people have more questions, what's the process they can reach out? I know they can put it on the Facebook page and I can forward that in emails and things to you. What's the process if somebody wants to come visit with one of your legal team or wants to kind of get started with moving forward with something?
We're always glad to answer questions on the phone or a personal visit. If it's just a question, we don't charge. We're glad to help people out. If we accept the case, then we work on a contingent fee basis.
Meaning that you have to win to get the money, right?
You have to win, so we're
gotta
really
win.
selective about the cases that we accept.
Yeah,
And
so-
you like a challenge, I've heard.
So there's really no risk. If you have any questions and you think that there might be some potential, it's really worth people's time at least to reach out and ask you if there's
never
some
hurts.
potential there, because you never know. And I know that some people are, scared they don't want to we don't want to be vengeful type people. But when you're wronged, there is definitely consequences and payouts and things like that are good to have. So your website is Bailey and Oliver.
There's no N. It's Bailey Oliver.
Bailey Oliver.
Bailey
.com.
Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook page. Do you guys have a corporate Facebook page or just Frank Bailey?
We do have a corporate Bailey Oliver Facebook
Oliver
page.
Facebook page. So go there and you can probably even message them, ask them some questions that way.
Yes.
And if you have questions for us, just send them to our Naked Doctor radio show.
We
Facebook
love
page.
the questions.
Love
No, we
the
really do,
questions,
because it helps us confirm we've got people out there that are listening.
Yeah.
And then we answer your questions, and then it brings more questions. We'll be
Yes.
here forever.
And that makes it your show as well
Yes.
as our show. We can
Yes.
sit here and talk about anything forever. So
I know.
We love it. So promise you'll come back and we'll do this again. We
Love
have
to.
so much
Yes.
left undone. We had a little bit of an outline. And
I know,
things
I
to
have more
cover.
questions.
I don't think I even got through half of it. So just to be continuing, Mr.
Yes.
Frank Bailey. We love you all. Please have a blessed week. Hope this was helpful for you. And send us your comments and suggestions. Who else you might like to see or what kinds of things you'd like to have. So anyway, we're trying to talk Mr. Bailey into having his own show. So maybe in the
that'll
future
be
you can have
fun.
a whole show that you can ask your legal questions to, because I know that's exciting too. So
Wow.
anyway, they're saying wrap.
Okay,
So
wrap
we
it
gotta
up.
go. Y'all have a blessed week. Thanks so much for
Thanks.
being here, and we'll see you back next week on The Naked Doctor.
Bellyache,